Hello and welcome. We start tonight with what might be a breakthrough in the search for the killer of Anne Locke, Marty Tambudza and Alison Day.
The three cases were shown in separate Crimewatch reconstructions, but as a result of forensic tests and other evidence, police believe that all three women were almost certainly killed by the same man. Alison Day was attacked in a street in East London and dumped in a nearby canal. Police had little to go on and no description. But when Marty Tambudza, a Dutch schoolgirl, was murdered in Surrey in April, we broadcast this video fit of a man seen acting oddly the day before. And when Anne Locke, the television secretary, went missing in May, we showed this picture of a man seen at a station. Now, partly as a result of calls to Crimewatch, there's new evidence about the Marty Tambudza murder and a rather different description. In May, we showed that just after Marty was killed, a man was seen running for the London train at Horsley Station, and the train stopped to let him on. Detectives now believe he'd come straight from where Marty had been attacked, and a woman on that train saw him and saw him clearly. This is what he looked like. The artist's impression is of a man between 18 and 25, with long, untidy, brown, curly hair. He was wearing a blue anorak, jeans and trainers, all of which were spattered with mud. He's between 5'6" and 5'9" tall. Here in the studio, Detective Chief Superintendent Vincent McFadden is convinced this man is the killer and could well kill again. If you think you know the man for any reason, for example, perhaps if you're a hairdresser, you might have permed that hair. If he lives near you, if you've seen him, please call now. The incident room at Guildford is on 0483 31111. That's 0483 31111. Or you can ring Mr. McFadden and his colleagues who are with us in the studio live on 01 811 8055, 01 811 8055. And that's the number here, of course, throughout the evening.
News on other cases we covered last month. There was an armed robbery which resulted in a car chase through the streets of Birmingham. Calls to Crimewatch led to 160 police inquiries, and partly as a result of one call, they now say they know the identity of at least one of the robbers, and we'll let you know what happens on that case. In London, a man has been charged with robbing a jeweller's shop in Kentish Town after Crimewatch viewers rang to say they recognised him. And though not as a result of Crimewatch, a woman has been charged with the murder of Georgina Davis, a 77-year-old retired nurse in Salford.
There have been charges, too, resulting from a Crimewatch reconstruction last November. A dummy bomb was strapped to a security guard during an armed raid in North London. A sharp-eyed viewer spotted something in the reconstruction, which has now led to charges against 8 men and a woman. The offences involve a total of £2 million.
And a recent conviction. This picture of a red car with a sailboard on the roof was seen on Crimewatch and recognised by an off-duty policeman in Betsy Coed in North Wales. As a result, Stephen Filkins was arrested and has been charged with the murder of 68-year-old Pamela Reynolds, 300 miles away, in Worthing. He's now been sentenced to life imprisonment. Well, now to the first of this month's reconstructions. It's the murder of a Chinese restaurateur 6 weeks ago. He was killed by burglars at his home in London, but the possessions stolen by the killers could turn out to be their downfall. This is Gerrard Street in London's Chinatown, one of the few places in Britain you'll find Chinese jewellery. It was pieces identical to these that were stolen in the murder: 3 jade pendants, a dragon and phoenix bracelet, a wedding ring and a gold chain. The victim rarely came to this area, but his picture is now posted throughout Chinatown. His name is Che Keng Fung. He was killed, it seems, for £100 and that small amount of jewellery. He lived just off the Seven Sisters Road in Holloway. He'd moved from the United States last year to live with his son here in Sussex Way. He was a quiet, rather private man, with few friends or interests outside the family. At 66, he was in good shape and liked walking to keep fit. Monday, the 11th of August, was very much like any other day. And as usual, at about 10:30 that morning, he set off to stroll to Kentish Town, 2 miles away. Just around the corner from the Town and Country Club is Fortis Road and his son's fish and chip shop, the Sindelle. Mr. Hung's son, Ging Huai Hung, has owned the shop for several years. He and his wife work hard here 7 days a week. That Monday, Che Keng Fung was especially pleased to see his granddaughter, Rosie. She and her mother had stayed the previous night in the living quarters above the shop. They were preparing food and making the pancake rolls to sell at lunchtime. Che Keng Fung knew a great deal about the catering trade. He jointly owned a restaurant in Brooklyn in New York. This photo was taken 11 years ago. He'd lived all across the world, in Guangzhou, in China, in Hong Kong and in Jamaica. After selling up the Brooklyn restaurant, he'd come to live in England 15 months ago with his son and family. The restaurant sale had left him money for his retirement, and he still had plans to travel before settling down. Mr. Hung stayed at the shop until closing time just after lunch at around 2:30. Then he and his son left to go back to Sussex Way to have their own lunch.
I have news about your son.
What is it?
Your son and your son now in Hong Kong. I think they will go. I think this year will come to Hong Kong.
You when想去啊？
大約聖誕時間啦嚇。
食飯，食啦。
The son remembers nothing was unusual that Monday afternoon. At about 4:45, he left to go back to the shop. His father seemed happy and at ease. Che Keng Fung loved reading and gardening. At 6:50 that evening, a neighbour noticed he was out in his garden cutting back the ivy. This was the last time Che Keng Fung was seen alive, except, that is, by whoever killed him. It seems he spent the evening quietly in the house. A light was on in the downstairs room where he normally watched TV.
50 Manchester United supporters have arrived back at Harwich after last night's violence in Amsterdam.
Whatever happened, the TV was certainly switched off by morning. We know he had an evening meal and washed the dishes, but the light stayed on all night. Sometime between 9 and 11 p.m, at least 2 people got into the house. They stabbed, tortured and battered Che Keng Fung to death. The man now hunting for his killers is Detective Superintendent Fergus Corker, and it was a particularly horrible and vicious killing, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. An appalling attack on a defenceless man who suffered horrific injuries, and the people responsible must be caught.
Are they Chinese? English? Do we know?
At this stage, I can't really say.
Now, the jewellery they took is very distinctive. I've got one item here. This is pure gold, and it's quite something. The most recognisable piece, in fact, is identical to this. It is gold, and to describe it, here's Dr. Stephen Tang from Manchester, who's an expert in Oriental jewellery of this sort.
This is a gold bracelet, usually presented to the bride before her wedding. It's from the close relatives of the family, with a dragon and a finished design with a double happiness in the middle. It represents harmony and fortune. The value will cost the family perhaps a few thousand of dollars, Hong Kong dollars, and yet it's not the value that is money value that's important, it's the sentimental value that is within, which is most paramount.
So you need anybody who's seen that jewellery to call you. Any other clues?
Yes, any of that jewellery particularly, and about 4,500 luncheon vouchers were stolen of various denominations, but they're all marked in one of two ways. Either the marking of 2 lines across at the front of the voucher, or a form of Z-type marking. They're all marked in one of those ways.
I mean, frankly, if I've got several thousand luncheon vouchers, which perhaps I shouldn't have, or I've got this sort of jewellery, which again maybe I shouldn't have, I'm going to be a bit worried about calling you.
Sure. Well, I would appeal particularly to any of the criminal fraternity who may have come into possession of those items to ring me in the strictest of confidence. I'm not worried about their possession at this time. I'm solely concerned in the identity of the people responsible.
You're not going to take action against them?
At this stage, no.
Now, what about the killers? How many of them? What do we know about them?
From the inquiries we've made so far, I'm satisfied that there were at least 2 of them, and they left the house and walked down Sussex Way in the direction of Seven Sisters Road, which is a very, very busy thoroughfare. As they turned into Seven Sisters Road, there is the Safeway supermarket, and directly outside Safeway's there is a bus stop with numerous buses stopping there and carrying passengers on up towards Finsbury Park.
Now, this is between 9 and 11 p.m. at night. Lots of people around, lots of pubs near there too.
That's right. No doubt at all, if people were at the bus stop or on the buses, I would appeal for them to recollect if they saw at least 2 people, both of whom indeed would have been bloodstained.
OK, those pubs, very quickly.
Yes, there's 3 public houses where people may have come from. The Enkill Arms at Hornsey Road, or the next one at the junction of Seven Sisters Road, and the Nag's Head at Holloway Road.
Right. There's a £5,000 reward. If you can help, please call us. A particularly horrible killing. The number to ring if you can help, 01811 8055. If you've any information at all, please call 01811 8055. You can speak to a detective or to a BBC researcher, and in English or in Cantonese. Or you can call the incident room at Holloway Police Station on 01 263 9090. That's 01 263 9090.
Well, now the incident desk. This month, a woman who's been robbing building societies in the West Country and Wales, the kidnapping of a child from Lincoln, and the needlework which could identify a body found in Sussex. Here are Superintendent David Hatcher and Constable Helen Phelps.
First, the kidnapping. On the afternoon of Wednesday, the 27th of August, Jamie Thomas, who's 8, went out to play on his bike near his home in Lincoln. In the evening, somebody saw him in the city centre with this man. He seemed to be between 40 and 55 and might have had round-rimmed glasses. At about 8:30, the 2 of them were seen again, getting on a train at Lincoln Station. A well-dressed middle-aged woman was seen talking to them on that train. At Newark, she got off and they continued south. We'd like that woman to ring us now. We also want witnesses who saw them on the next stretch. Remember, they had a child's bike with them. Jamie and the man got off the train at Peterborough at 10 p.m, and from then on, we've no sightings of the kidnapper. Jamie only remembers being taken to a house not far from the railway station. He was kept overnight and luckily he wasn't harmed. The next morning, that was Thursday the 28th, he got out and was seen wandering alone around Peterborough. A policewoman found him that afternoon and he was returned safe and sound to his parents. Now, Jamie's bike is still missing. This is a replica and it may help us find out where he was taken. It's a Viceroy Stingray BMX type and in these colours. If anyone's come across one in Peterborough, please ring us. And if anyone saw the man on those trains or elsewhere, we really do need to hear from you.
On the 31st of August, a gruesome discovery was made in the Ashdown Forest in Sussex. You've probably read about the case. Detectives are still trying to identify the remains of a murdered woman. Forensic tests have given only a rough description. She was white, between 17 and 40, medium build, about 5 foot 3 inches tall, and she'd probably once had a baby. Not much to go on, but you may be able to help us identify the victim or her killer if you recognise the materials which were used to wrap her. First, these curtains. One's a floral pattern and the other's blue acrylic. If you look here, you can see that somebody once took up the hem by hand. They're quite large stitches. If you made this alteration, it's vital you contact us. There was also this Tesco night dress. Size 12 to 14, it was bought in the last 18 months. And who owned this nylon negligee and nightie with lace inserts and edgings? We need to know who all these belong to. Ring us too if you saw anything odd in the Ashdown Forest around the August Bank holiday or shortly before. This is the spot, a lay-by between Nutley and Wych Cross on the A22, the Eastbourne Road.
Next, we're looking for this man, who robbed the Peterborough Building Society in North London of more than £2,800. About mid-morning, he took one of the staff hostage, brandishing a handgun. It was a Walther automatic. He instructed the woman cashier to empty her till, and as he made his getaway, apparently in the Finsbury Park direction, he made his hostage lie on the floor. The security camera caught him on the way out. Look closely at the hat. It was green, and the marks on his overalls suggest he may use them for work.
And now to a woman, or what looks like a woman, who's committed 3 building society robberies in Wales and the west of England. We've 3 pictures, but her disguises make it hard to see precisely what she looks like. She's certainly heavily built, but could be anything from 25 to 45. Here in Cwmbran, her hair looked blonde, but staff thought it might have been a wig. She always covers her face with scarves and hats, and sometimes wears heavily framed glasses. She operates on her own, is very cool, and implies that she's carrying a gun. She's worn flat sandals like these on other occasions. Staff at the National and Provincial in Bristol thought she had dark hair. This time she wore a quilted jacket with an Indian print on it and a maroon cotton skirt. If you can see through her disguises and point us in the right direction, give us a ring.
Small business premises are always vulnerable to burglaries, and in recent months the East London fashion trade has been badly hit. Here in Hackney, designer and printer Cressida Bell lost £3,000 worth of limited edition scarves in July. Each one is hand-screen printed on wool or silk and sold only at exclusive London stores like Harvey Nichols and Brown's.
We've only been in business for a short time, and really, I mean, it could have almost bankrupted us. It's really a disaster for a small business like ours because we've had 2 burglaries now and they really don't want to insure us anymore. And we found somebody who'll insure us, but it's going to be a 600% increase in premium.
The scarves are almost shawl size and cost around £62. Each one bears this Cressida Bell logo and are distinguished by their bold heraldic designs. So if you've been offered scarves like these with that distinctive logo, don't hesitate. Give us a ring. And call us if you can help with any of our other incident desk cases.
Here's the number, 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055.
Our next reconstruction is the tragic death of Diane Sindell in Merseyside. Diane was killed sometime around midnight on Friday, August the 1st, on Borough Road in Birkenhead. It's the busy main road through the town, but it's also a trunk route linking Liverpool with North Wales and Cheshire. So police are hoping that long-distance travellers, as well as local people, might be able to help. Diane lived and worked in Seacombe, just outside Birkenhead.
Hi. Are you doing okay?
21-year-old Diane Sindell was a florist. Residents of Seacombe were used to seeing her blue van making deliveries. She'd been engaged for 4 years, and she was planning to get married next year. During the day, she worked at her uncle's greengrocer in Seacombe, just round the corner from her flat.
Are your steak pies hot?
Red hot.
Oh, go on, get one then.
Okay. Oh, well, she used to come in every day, you know, for a pie, a hot pie. She used to go to market early in the morning. So she used to count, you know, how much everything was. But, I mean, she was saving up to get married. It's only natural that you're careful. I mean, I was at that age.
Yeah. She was very nice girl.
It was something that shouldn't have happened.
No.
For the past year, she'd been earning extra money, working 3 evenings a week at a pub called the Wellington, just outside Birkenhead in Bebington. On the evening of her death, it was, as usual, about 11:30 by the time the pub had been cleared up and Diane was able to leave.
Absolutely starving, yeah.
She said she might pick up something to eat on the way home.
I don't know, I think I'll stop off and get some fish and chips.
By 11:45, Diane was in her blue van heading towards home. It's a 5-mile journey back to Seacombe along the Old Chester Road. 2 joiners were working late in a car accessory store at the junction where Diane had to turn left into Borough Road, Birkenhead. It was about midnight when one of them saw the blue van stop. A short time later, the other joiner saw Diane leaving her van. It had run out of petrol. Diane set out along Borough Road, walking away from the centre of Birkenhead in the direction of Tranmere. She might have been planning to call on a nearby friend for help, or she may have been heading for a petrol station half a mile away, or perhaps she hoped to pick up a taxi. After that first sighting by the 2 joiners at the auto centre, the second sighting was a few minutes later, further along Borough Road. Crossville Bus Company driver Gary Lamb on his last run of the night.
I was on the last 87 bus from Parkgate, which leaves Parkgate at 11:30, and that'll get me down to Borough Road about midnight. What I seen was a young girl just before the 42 bus stop on Borough Road, and she seemed to be looking in a bag and turning around as if she was looking for a bus. There was definitely no chance she'd get a bus that time of night.
Then a third sighting within yards of the bus drivers. It was soon after 12:10. A taxi driver looking for fares.
It was around about 12:10. I was driving along Borough Road. 10 lies on Borough Road. As I passed the garage at the bottom of Argyle Street, I saw a couple ahead of me. When I passed them, I noticed they were arguing. The fella put his hand out towards the girl. They appeared to know each other, but they were definitely arguing. It was as if they'd been to a club and then, had a fight, and then were walking home together,
Further along Borough Road, a couple driving home saw her near the junction with Whetstone Lane. As far as we know, this was the last time she was seen alive. The mystery is that Diane's body was found in an alley 150 yards back along Borough Road. Had she walked back, or had somebody driven her back? The next day, Saturday the 2nd of August, around noon, a local woman was walking her dog. Diane's body was lying only yards from Borough Road. Two and a half miles away at Bidston Hill that Sunday, 3rd of August, Anne Loven and Jim Foster were exercising their dogs. As they walked down a path near Viner Road North, they noticed someone had started a fire. Jim found a bag, a pair of blue jeans, and some other clothing still burning. There was also a charred page from a Barclays paying-in book. Well, Detective Superintendent Tom Baxter is in charge of this investigation. Those were Diane's clothes burning there, weren't there?
Yes.
But whoever started that fire only just done so.
Yes, the fire was discovered about 8 p.m. on the evening of Sunday, the 3rd of August. We do feel that the person who was burning Diane's clothing was disturbed. We are anxious, to that end, to trace anybody who was on the Bidston Hill area that evening, whether it be anybody who witnessed the fire, whether they saw anybody acting suspiciously, or whether they saw anybody carrying a bundle of clothing, or maybe carrying a bag which could possibly have contained that clothing.
Must have looked quite conspicuous, actually, too. Could you just show us on the map now those 3 places where Diane was seen that Friday night on the 1st of August? That's where she ran out of petrol.
Diane ran out of petrol on Borough Road opposite the Auto Safety Centre. She left her vehicle, and then there are 3 sightings of her as she walked along Borough Road out of the Birkenhead town centre.
The extraordinary thing is that that last sighting at the junction of Borough Road with Whetstone Lane, her body was found 150 yards back along Borough Road. Now, how do you account for that?
Well, we don't know. We haven't got any sightings whatsoever of Diane walking back along Borough Road towards the town centre.
Her body was found very near where the taxi driver saw her, and she appeared to be arguing with somebody in a leather jacket. You're obviously anxious to find him.
Yes, this is a very important sighting. It appears that Diane was arguing with a man, and we are anxious to trace this person.
There was another girl assaulted that very same night on Borough Road. It's extraordinary that nobody saw anything.
Yes, there was a girl assaulted on Borough Road that evening. She was a 17-year-old girl who was dressed in yellow. She was subjected to an indecent assault and was eventually found on a park bench, sobbing and in a distressed condition.
Don't you feel somebody must have seen something? If two girls are assaulted on the same road, it's a busy road.
Yes, I do. It's very relevant that the assault must have taken place about the same time that we feel that Diane met her death, and I find it incredible in this busy, well-lit area that nobody has come forward who has actually seen either of these assaults taking place.
And somebody in a white Ford Sierra was seen too, who you'd like to come forward?
There was a white Sierra seen parked close to the murder scene at the relevant time. I would like that driver to come forward.
Well, if you can help, please, if you did see anything that night which might help, please ring us. And if you've been approached or accosted or assaulted in the Borough Road area any time in the last few weeks, any description you can give could be vital. You can ring and speak in complete confidence to a female BBC researcher or a woman police officer. The number here in the studio, 01811 8055, or call Birkenhead Police Station on 051 777 4979. That's 051, the code for Liverpool, 777 4979.
Our next reconstruction is about a rash of crimes which has become so serious that 6 different police forces are pooling resources. They're hunting for a group of thieves who seem to know precisely what they're after.
This year, 6 museums have been robbed of historic and irreplaceable items of silver. Most of the burglaries have been in the north of England, and police believe there could be links between them.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to Wakefield. A review of these offences indicates at the moment that they
Superintendent Bill Quinn of Regional Criminal Intelligence called a conference of the investigating officers concerned to pool information on all the cases.
Thieves broke into the premises via a side window by smashing it, then went into a banqueting room and there smashed the glass in a wall cabinet and grabbed about 13 pieces of the Hull silver collection. And it's believed that they left the premises via the window that they'd gained entry.
The thieves went straight for the most prized and most historic items in the Hull silver collection, distinctive because of the 3 crowns engraved on every piece. In Leeds, £1,600 worth of silver was taken, and this candelabra was part of the haul. This diocesan cup was part of a £20,000 burglary from Ripon. An opportunist thief forced a display cabinet and made off with the silver in broad daylight. Police can't be certain these 3 thefts are linked, but there are definite similarities between the next 3.
Entry had been gained to the museum by means of breaking the first floor window of the museum. Found at the scene was this sledgehammer, which had obviously been used to smash the window. As you can see, there's a piece of string, there was a longer piece of string attached to it, which had probably been used to drag the sledgehammer up to the first floor window.
The gang was after these 5 mayoral chains and badges of office worth £10,000. 17 days later, in Huddersfield, sledgehammers were used again. This was the largest of the burglaries. £40,000 worth of silver went from here, including this huge silver seagull.
Similar to the other offences, entry was gained to the premises by using one of these sledgehammers here to smash a window at the rear of the premises. And to deaden the sound, this tartan-type rug here was used and it was found near to the broken window at the back of the premises. Now, I'm convinced that the people who broke into the museum, the Tolson Museum at Huddersfield, knew exactly where they were going to, knew exactly what they were going for, because they broke into 2 display cases, one on the ground floor and one a considerable distance away upstairs. At each of the cabinets, we found the sledgehammers. And because of this, and because of the distance between them and the fact that an alarm rang out, we have a theory that perhaps 4 people were involved.
Last month, the thieves moved south away from the northern counties to Shrewsbury in the Midlands. Forensic evidence provides a clear picture of what happened. The Clive House Museum is tucked away at the end of College Hill near the city centre. Clive of India once lived here. The exhibits include rare porcelain and china, but taking pride of place in the museum's gallery was a valuable collection of antique silver, much of it the property of local churches. The museum was well protected, and there are 3 separate alarm systems, all connected to the operations room of the local police station. It's Sunday, August the 3rd. The museum had been closed all day. Paul Davis works at the museum and lives in an adjoining flat. At about 7:20, he and his girlfriend, Nikki, went out for the evening to a local pub. At the end of the garden behind Clive House, there's a private courtyard. Police know that was the point of entry. There were marks where somebody had climbed on the cross member of the gate. There were scuff marks on the wall of this garage. And evidence that 2 people had crossed the garden beneath.
Automatic intruder alarm, Clive House Museum.
Foxtrot Alpha to all patrols.
Alarm sounding Clive House Museum.
05 en route, over. Yeah, 72 en route.
The first policeman was on the scene within 3 minutes of the alarm sounding. Whether by luck or by judgment, the thieves had got away with £25,000 worth of silver. Once again, a small town museum broken into at night by burglars using sledgehammers and interested only in valuable silver.
And of course, the alarm system at Clive House Museum has now been changed. The detective in charge of that case in Shrewsbury is Detective Chief Inspector Chris Ferber. The main clue, of course, you have is that sledgehammer, which has been used in several of the burglaries.
Yes, this sledgehammer was left at the scene of the burglary at Clive House at Shrewsbury, and on the shaft there's a label which shows that this was either bought or stolen from a B&Q stores.
So, of course, it's quite a well-known chainsaw.
It is, do-it-yourself sort of, a big one.
How do you think viewers might be able to help you tonight?
I think they can help us in several ways. Firstly, there may be a member of B&Q staff who remembers selling one of these sledgehammers to someone who arouses suspicions. Secondly, it may be that someone's actually seen one of these burglars and not yet contacted the police. It could be that genuine visitors to such museums have noticed that other visitors are taking a particular interest in the alarm system or acting suspiciously in some way. And thirdly, and perhaps the most likely, they may help us in the disposal of the property. Perhaps they've had some of these articles offered to them for sale, or they know something about being requested to crate them up or distribute them.
Well, John Souter here is an expert in tracing stolen antiques. You're a former policeman and you call yourself the antique detective.
That's right.
Pun intended. First of all, this diocesan cup is one of the most remarkable pieces we have here. It's a limited edition. That surely should be traceable.
I think so. I think that would have been stolen to be sold to a collector in due course. And the one, of course, that is missing is number 8, and that's terribly identifiable, and somebody may have been offered it.
The thieves know what they're after. They're after particularly distinctive stuff, so they obviously
yes.
don't intend to melt it down.
I wouldn't have thought so, no.
Can we look at those mayoral chains? We have a picture of those, and they're particularly distinctive and unique, in fact, because they have the marks of Doncaster on them. What is somebody going to do with those? Perhaps they go abroad.
I think the thieves will find it difficult to get rid of those articles. They're most unusual, but I don't think that there are many people who collect that sort of thing. The unfortunate thing here, of course, is that we don't have photographs of them, and this is perhaps some sort of reminder to those people who have collections and antiques at home to make sure that they do photograph and have inventories of their possessions.
Right. And these things here are very similar to, or are partners to, stuff stolen in burglaries from Huddersfield. What's going to happen to those? Do you think they might turn up on the open market somewhere?
I do. The value in articles such as these are the workmanship, the rarity, and the age. There's not a lot of weight in the individual articles, and I'm sure that they were stolen to sell. And at this very moment, they could be circulating within the antiques trade or the silver trade, and perhaps some collector has already been offered or even bought one of the stolen articles.
They could be anywhere in the country.
They
and
could.
Mr. Ferber, there is a reward. There are rewards on offer, aren't there?
There certainly are. There's 3 sets of rewards: 2,500 from Shrewsbury, 2,000 at Ripon, and 2,500 at Hull.
Right. Well, we have showed you some of the more unusual pieces stolen, but in fact we've prepared a complete list of 87 missing items. If you have a special interest, if you buy and sell antique silver or you visit or work in markets, you might like to have the list and have a look out for them. Send us a self-addressed envelope with a 22p stamp. Here's the address: Silver Watch, BBC Television, London W12 8QT. And of course, if you have any specific information on any of those burglaries, please ring us here now on 01 811 8055 or call Shrewsbury Police on 0743 53971. That's 0743, the code for Shrewsbury, 53971.
Still on the subject of silver, we've some distressing news about a robbery we reconstructed last December. Bertram Vince worked from home as a silver merchant. He had a fine collection of antiques, which he kept at the family home near Downham Market in Norfolk. In May last year, 3 men broke in. They bound and gagged him. In fact, he almost choked, and they got away with silver worth £100,000. Now, it seems the same gang have struck again. This time they were armed with a shotgun, and Mr. Vince has been so upset he's abandoned his career. These are some of the items that are missing, at least they're replicas. They're 16th and 17th century with the Norwich Rose hallmark that makes them so rare. Now, have you seen that anywhere on the market? If you want details of these pieces, they're lovely pieces of silver, write in for that Silver Watch leaflet. And if you own a novelty shop, do you stock a Spider-Man type of mask? All 3 raiders wore ones like this. They're probably imported. Where did the raiders buy them? And thirdly, of course, if you know who did it, please tell us. And if it helps, there's a £30,000 reward for information leading either to recovery of the property or to arrest and conviction.
Well, the number for that and every other case we've covered tonight is 01 811 8055. The detectives will be here till midnight. Local numbers are all on CFAX on page 186, or you can write to us at Crimewatch UK, BBC TV, London W12 8QT. And we'll be back to give you an update at 11:30.
I can already tell you we're having a remarkable response, especially on that portrait that we've got, and whoever rang up about luncheon vouchers from Barnet, please call again. Now, we pack a lot of crime into 40 minutes, more nasty ones than most police officers will encounter in a lifetime. If it's any comfort, an official report soon to be published shows violent crime is no higher here than on the continent, much lower than in the United States, and for what it's worth, you're even less likely to be murdered now than you were 100 years ago. So don't have nightmares, do please. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.